Councillor Alley.
Hi, thank you, Lord Mayor. Could the Mayor please update us about Barton House?
Well, thank you. Yeah, so I think I've given quite exhaustive list here. The works have been completed on Barton House. The hotel where residents were temporarily accommodated is now empty. The contract came to an end for that hotel on March the 8th. We currently have 2 residents in serviced accommodation by agreement, and these arrangements actually came to end on 11th. We also had 9 households who made homelessness applications. 3 of them have received a not homeless decision, and 6 have been provided with temporary accommodation across the city, pending those decisions. As I set out, I think we handled this very challenging situation in very challenging times as well as we could. Constant flow of information, community development workers on the ground, large-scale financial support, and I'm pleased to say that the works proceeded and we moved incredibly quickly. It was an unfortunate truth that our efforts to do the works were impeded. Initially, the stairwell was blocked when our contractors went in to start to put the fireproofing in and do work on the ties. And we also had residents being urged not to cooperate, with one resident in particular refusing to allow access to their flat for us to do the work, which held the whole block up. What would have if we hadn't got in. And then obviously we had someone arrested for stealing fire alarms that we had laid out to deploy across Barton House, which was one of the requirements of making the block safe for residents to return as well. And a fair amount of misinformation and agitation. But apart from that, I think I really want to applaud our council officers for doing kind of extraordinary work over the last few months.
Councillor Alley, did you have a second supplementary?
I do. Thank you, Lord Mayor, and thank you, Margaret. This question is for Councillor Emma. I heard from residents of Barton House that a Green candidate, Green Party candidate, is the person who was responsible for.
Councillor Alley, sorry, I'm going to have to stop you. The question is to the Mayor.
Oh, okay, sorry, okay, yeah. Basically, I've heard that there's a Green Party candidate who is arrested and has prevented people returning to Barton House. So I just wanted to find out if that is the reality or if that is just a rumor.
Sorry, whether a candidate was arrested for preventing people from taking a firearm.
Basically, he.
Hang on, no. Okay, yeah. Can you please?
I'd say it's probably best to direct that question to the Green Group then.
Yeah, okay, that's enough of this. We'll move on. Apologies. Conservative second question, Councillor Weston.
Yet again, I'm not the controversial one. There's still time. Thank you very much, Lord Mayor. And thank you to the members' answers. I think some confusion's got in, and I'm more than happy to take part in it on the chin. When the Cribs Factory neighbourhood was first signed, the landowner agreement was signed, which calls Section 106, there were 6,500 homes planned on the site. 2 weeks ago, the YTL portion of that site went from 2,700 homes to 6,500, so they've added another 4,000 homes to the site. Now, when the Section 106 agreements were signed, Bristol negotiated with South Gloss to get a portion of that south of the border. I'm just asking, has the council entered into negotiations with South Gloss to get a portion of the new Section 106, there's a building of 4,000 homes, to come south of the border? Have we had any discussions with South Gloss to increase the amount of Section 106 coming into Bristol?
I'll have to check how we're apportioning that. Obviously, we work with the combined authority through those structures as well to try and manage the whole development. I will say it's an incredible amount of pressure coming into that part of the city, 6,500 homes. with all those people moving there, if only we had some way of moving masses of people around the city without bringing more pressure to our road network. Be great. What trains don't train, well, I mean, it's calling out trains. Trains are a very inflexible means of moving people around. And what you would have with a mass transit system that was delivered is something that could actually stop every minute or two. Starting and stopping a train wouldn't necessarily work like that on a regional basis. But some form of mass transit system to cope with the regeneration, the housing delivery that we not only want but need for a growing population, I think would be one of the key ways of making sure that the growth of our region does not end up undermining the prosperity and sustainability of our region as well.
If only we did. However, as you point out, the 60 million in Section 106 is probably about 2% of the cost of an underground. So the pot probably isn't large enough. But my second question, and I was trying not to be controversial, my second question was if we're going to have negotiations with South Gloss over the revised Cribbs Factory neighbourhood with the higher thresholds, and we're asking them to increase the amount of Section 106 flowing south of the city, can we look at the secondary junctions? We focus just on the main roads, the traffic will flow like water, and that'll impact Horfield, Southmead, Henleys, Westbury, Henbury, Avon, Western. It's the secondary junctions I think we need to. So when we have those negotiations, can you please think of the secondary junctions as well, please?
Definitely, Mark. And in fact, I have my final WECA meeting on Friday, this Friday, and there are a number of things that I'll be sharing at that WECA meeting that are that is a to-do list that WECA must continue, must deliver for us. I mean, I'll share with you again just some of the challenges of working cross-border. It was only I've been working with Toby Savage for probably a year and a half on delivering a park and ride for the M32. Again, one of the ways of taking pressure off our road network coming into the city, made real progress. So only a couple of weeks ago I heard from South Gloss without even informing me that they were no longer going to support the M32 park and ride. So that adds more, that just is kind of illustrative of the challenges that we face working cross-border and why we need that combined authority to work effectively and bring us together around shared goals. I take the point about the controversy. I don't actually think of mass transit as controversy. I think that the overground would be controversial once you start CPO inland and closing Gloucester Road and Church Road to have it going up and down it. But let's have a final hoorah and we'll have a chat about the viability of a mass transit system for the city region.
Sounds fun.
Thank you. Councillor Horncham.
Thank you for the answers, Mayor. I don't have a supplementary for the first question. That sounds very interesting with the cycle path, and I look forward to that. I have a second supplementary question for my second question on housing. I heard that there's some good news about figures of housing. Could you please enlighten us about that were released today?
Sorry, could you just repeat that?
And the second question was about housing and about empty housing, but I heard that there would be some good news figures about housing today and the housing numbers. Could you enlighten us on those new numbers?
Sorry, it was echoey. Our echo. We have to get some curtains hung up in there. So, no, it's a good day actually. Actually, as the housing lead on delivery, let me let Tom bring us that, if that's okay, Lord.
Thank you. So really pleased to share that we're on track to deliver 14,500 homes over the 8 years of this administration, and we're expecting to deliver around 600 affordable homes this year, which we believe to be the best result in 2 decades in the city. So we're really seeing affordable housing and housing delivery continue to ramp up despite what has been some significant economic challenges with construction inflation, COVID, war in Ukraine, and so on. So, it's some really good news for us, and we'll continue that work.
Councillor Holden, did you have a second supplementary? Thank you. Councillor Galandras.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor, and thank you, Marvin, for being very frank in your response. I mean, Bristol Waste, it's probably the most complained about service I get at the moment. And it's only been over the last sort of 5-6 months since November when they did the rerouting, and I'd have thought the rerouting should have settled down by now, and yet there are still problems. What do you think is behind all these problems? Are there any systemic issues, do you think, Marvin?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll come in. We were, like I say, we're frank with you. We're not particularly happy because people aren't happy, and we're also recipients of the service ourselves. So we kind of get a sense of what's going on. I also want to recognise that it's our company is faced some real challenging times over recent years as well. Our sense at the moment is just a logistical challenge that they're facing. What we have asked them to do is come back to us with firm plans and options, actually, on those plans, not just with one plan that we say yes or no to, but a number of options on how this could be solved and we get a service that the City of Bristol needs and deserves. Marty was indicating as well. Can I just allow Marty to, because this now is in his cabinet brief as well.
Thank you, Marvin. Yeah, I sympathise with the experiences of your residents and would agree there's definitely ongoing problems. As Marvin alluded to, we're working very hard with Bristol Waste to try and find some solutions to that. But as I think the answer said, there's this pressure on a particular day, and we're trying to sort of find a solution to that. There was always going to be some teeth and issues after the reboot, but we're just trying to find a solution, and then hopefully residents will see an improved quality of service.
John, do you have a second question?
No further supplementaries. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Next up, Councillor Pearce is not with us. So, Councillor Morris, your question, please.
No supplementaries, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Massey is not with us. So, Councillor Hacker, do you have a supplementary?
No, I don't, but I would just like to thank the Mayor for his answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Smith, do you have supplementary questions?
Yeah, I do. Thank you for the response to this. Good news that the work is getting progressed. Can I request, though, for a little more detail on timetable? I appreciate we don't know yet when we'll see spades in the ground. That's fair enough, it's still happening. But can you give me a sense of when we might know when things are going to happen, when the repricing and the contracting work will be done, and we will see a programme?
Well, we'll go from here and we'll ask for a proper, a schedule as well. I mean, it has been one of the things that we've pushed into our own organisation here, that when we ask for a date, don't give us a season or an epoch of time. Actually, give us a deadline, and if we miss the deadline, we miss the deadline, but give us a deadline. And so allow me to go back and come to you with a bit more of a schedule. All right.
Yeah, thank you very much.
No second questions, Steve?
No, that's fine, thank you.
Councillor Gobb.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'll preface my remarks by sending Marvin my best wishes. We've had our differences over the years, but it doesn't stop me wishing you well for the future. But I'm sorry to say it doesn't stop me from asking some supplementary questions either. I'm particularly concerned on the issue with regard to travellers or van dwellers, and we're getting very confusing messages. You're telling us that the area on the Danes is a low impact area, and yet your own waste officers are saying that they will not collect fly tipping from that area because they do not feel safe in doing so. That worries me, and it worries me in the context of you using text from kicking the can down the road. I would like to ask you, Mayor, who is kicking the can down the road? It feels very much as though you are by not taking action on this critical issue.
No one's kicking the can down the road. I mean, a number of things. If people are saying they won't pick up fly tips and litters, then let us know. This is not something we're aware of. The assessment of it being low impact is also a function of the city we have. It's a 42 square mile city with a lot of competition for land, a lot of very densely packed residential streets, and on top of that, a housing crisis in which the demographic, it's important to know this, the demographic of people living in vehicles and caravans is switching from people who may have made it as a lifestyle choice to people who were living in there as a last resort because of poverty and as a result of the housing crisis. That creates a whole different kind of dynamic around how we would respond to it and what we do with them. And what I've made clear, and when we worked through it with some of your councillors for the area as well, and I think we did a really fair job with them, sharing our officers' research and looking through various options and the ups and downs of each one, and I hope that showed respect for their priorities. But what I very honestly said at the end was that the kind of interventions that they would advocate for were not the kind of interventions I would be able to advocate for, just because we have a different approach. And so we'll do what we can to bring forward meanwhile sites. We're bringing forward one in Sea Mills. Not always easy to bring forward because you have to put facilities on them as well. Also, we can't force people to move on to meanwhile sites, but we want to treat people in our vehicles with the same due care that we treat everyone else in the city. And so that means striking a balance between punitive action that we may, or actually is very limited, available to us, but also the supportive action that we may take to support them in their physical mental health and into permanent housing, which is why Tom's sharing of the fantastic numbers on housing delivery again is so important to so many challenges we face in the city, including van dwellers. So we're dealing with the issue in the moment with the scale of the challenge we face with the resources that we have at our disposal.
Jeff, did you have a second question?
Yeah, supplementary to the second question, my Lord Mayor. We have a real understanding of you not wishing to be punitive in terms of the van dwellers, but we also believe that we shouldn't be punitive on those residents who are reporting significant troubles arising from that encampment. I'm also concerned about your report in terms of Pembrokeshire County Council. I'm very glad that your officers made contact with someone in the housing department, and I'm sure that was very effective. But actually, if one looks at the Pembrokeshire County Council website, under
Jeff, do you want to go to the question, mate?
Yeah, I do, mate. Under motorhomes, it says that motorhomes may park in any council car park. But it also says cooking and sleeping in motorhomes overnight is not permitted. So I don't know what the point was in speaking to Pembrokeshire County Council if that key piece of information was not relayed to you and your office. Please, will you support an introduction of a similar restriction in terms of on-street parking in and around the city?
But first off, though, a lot of people are not in motorhomes, and this again limits the powers that are available. There are powers that are available in a limited way to tackle people with motorised vehicles, but people in caravans, they fall outside that. And so even Pembrokeshire's actions would happen. And the point of talking to other authorities is to obviously share what they have done. I mean, lots has been said about different authorities banning people from different areas, and we're finding out that that's not actually what's happened. And it's also worth bearing in mind that Pembrokeshire is a very, very different place to Bristol. I mean, I don't need to describe the differences. It's incredibly different. Not just, at least in terms of housing pressures as well. And so we'll look at other areas, we'll listen to what's gone on, but we'll deal with Bristol as Bristol is, with the skills, compassion that Bristol has, not just try and carbon copy and paste what their areas have done. And I think what we've seen in the reports back that talks about the way we've approached it is that we have led on this area well, particularly when you look at other major cities like Leeds and Brighton, and we're proud of that. That doesn't, but as I shared with your fellow councillor Smith the other week, this comes in the context of a housing crisis. The housing crisis will look like something at some point, and one of the things the housing crisis looks like, on top of a cost of living crisis, and I will say you're driving down at local government resources and a failure to support local government to build homes over the last 14 years, are people living in caravans and vehicles where they can't afford to be part of our housing stock in our society. And that's part of a national problem that we're dealing with locally.
Thank you. And unless my eyesight deceives me, Councillors Alexander and Scott are not here. Kevin, your question. Do you have a supplementary?
No, thank the Mayor for his response, but no further questions.
Okay, moving swiftly on, I don't think Councillor Windows is with us. Councillor Scott? No. Councillor Gita? Councillor Michelat? No. Okay, I'll now take members' statements in order of receipt. I remind members that a maximum of 1 minute will be allowed for the presentation of each statement, and there will be no debate on the statements. They will be referred to the Mayor for consideration. I can see Councillor Bowles is not with us. Councillor Dyer, you have 1 minute to present.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'm not going to repeat my statement. It's there for people to read it. There is a further decision to be made about the safety valve. If and when that comes to Cabinet, we will scrutinise that decision. If it comes after the election, then it will be automatically scrutinised as part of the new system. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Councillor McCarthy, your statement on C-Mills.
Yes, thank you, Lord Mayor. I stand before you today with heavy heart to address the tragic event that have deeply shaken our community. The recent death of 3 innocent children in C-Mills have left us all reeling with grief and disbelief. First and foremost, I want to send my condolences to the family and extend my heartfelt thanks to the emergency service for their swift response and tireless effort in the face of the heartbreaking tragedy. Their professionalism and compassion during such challenging circumstances are truly commendable. I also want to express my gratitude to Bristol City Council Community Department for their unwavering support and assistance in providing specialist care and support to the family affected by the devastating loss. To the residents of C-Mills, your strength, solidarity and kindness in coming together to support one another during this difficult time have been nothing short of remarkable. Your sense of community and unity is a beacon of hope amidst...
Sorry, Councillor McCarthy, can you wrap up a little bit, please? Thank you.
Yeah, okay. I must also acknowledge the invaluable role played by the church and Mr. Joe for organizing the vigil in C-Mills Square, providing space for collective mourning, reflecting into the incident its undeadly cause. You must...
I'm sorry, Councillor McCarthy, I know it's a very emotive subject, but I'm going to have to stop you. You've had 1 minute and 40 seconds already. Apologies. Okay, that concludes the statements and questions and ends the meeting. Thank you all.